This month marks the 5-year anniversary of me being self-employed and running my own business. Honestly, it has been anything but smooth sailing. In this video, I've shared with you 5 lessons that I've learned from this 5 years in business to give you a little sneak peek behind the curtain. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Craig and I'm a self-confessed insurance nerd. And on this channel, I try and humanize the world of insurance to help provide peace of mind for you and your family. I had always dreamed of being my own boss. I grew up seeing both of my parents start their own business, and it was always something that I wanted for myself. 5 years ago, I had a crack and started my own business. And it would be fair to say that it has been some of the best and the worst times of my life. Having had a bit of a chance to reflect on this, here are 5 lessons that I've learned in my journey. The first lesson is that everything works on paper. You've probably heard the Mike Tyson quote that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. I'm the type of person who maps out everything and lives a long way in the future. I work out the steps that need to get there, but I always model that long-term future of the impacts of the changes that I'm going to make because it helps motivate me to take action. But then my punch in the face came along. There's been a few across the times. Number 1, I had a massive falling out with a business partner and friend, which quickly dissolved that relationship. Secondly, there's been huge changes to legislation and the framework that we operate in with the Royal Commission. And finally, and most recently, the changes that have been brought about by COVID. If I'm being honest, there are times that I've considered giving up. But when I feel like this, I also feel that I've worked way too hard to get to where I am to give up now. A friend of mine summed up what it was like to be in small business perfectly. And what he says is that it's just trying to get through this next 3 months forever. Whilst I do have these long-term plans mapped out and they do motivate me, I've learned to be more flexible with what comes at me and adapt to what happens, as opposed to having to strictly stick to the plan at all times. The second lesson I've learned is that everything starts with me. And this is by no means a vanity thing at all. To give you some context, through the time of being a planner, I've burned through support staff quicker than anybody else in the businesses that I've been at. I kept claiming that it was that people couldn't keep up with my pace and that it was them and not me. After having false starts with about 5 support staff, I took some time to reflect, and it's perhaps something I should have done a little sooner. What I quickly learned was there was one common denominator in each of these relationships, and it was me. I was difficult to work with. I was moody, I was inconsistent, and I often took that out on those that were closest to me. I needed to change. So I did. I got some help from a business coach. I went back to the start and I began building some structures and an operating pattern for myself and the business. Since then, it's honestly been night and day with these relationships. Even though I don't have the biggest team by any means, we've had 0 staff turnover since I made this change. This is a marked improvement on before. The third lesson I've learned is how much I crave structure. I didn't realize how much structure having a job actually gave you, with starting times, end times, tasks, regular meetings, those sorts of things. Even having other people around you to keep you accountable. When I started my own business and the type of person I am, not having these constraints was amazing. I felt completely free, but I quickly learned that the structure was actually something that kept me moving forward. And with a lot of this extra time and no rules and no structure, I was actually falling behind in the things that I needed to get done. I recently had a conversation with another mate who's had that same dream of starting his own business. And his question was, how many hours would I work in a week? If I was to rewind 5 years ago when I first started the business, I was working stupid hours. These days, whilst I still work a lot, I spend more time doing the things that I should be doing and the things that I'm really good at, and less times on the things that I shouldn't be doing that I'm really no good at myself. I certainly work less hours than I did when I first started the business, but my advice to him was certainly not to give up being an employee if you're looking to reduce your work hours. My brain is always on and I'm constantly thinking about things that I could do better or things that I might have missed or not done, and this is something that I've learned to accept. Whilst I might work more hours than I did as an employee, what I've learned is to be grateful for the flexibility that it gives me to determine when I work those hours. The fourth lesson I have learned is to find time to think and to experiment. A number of years ago, I started putting a block of time in my diary that was just purely for thinking time. I heard this in a podcast or read it in a book, but I can't remember where I've got it. But it was a block of time that I set aside with no distractions just to sit there and think about problems that I had. And honestly, I had a few. Other things that I've tried during the last 5 years outside of my normal day job was things like starting a golf podcast with a mate of mine, which led to me building a chatbot to collect email addresses and data from people that were signing up for things that we had through the golf podcast. And this allowed me to experiment with it before I rolled it into my main business. I used the learnings that I took away from doing this to build the insurance needs calculator, which is now the first thing that people do before engaging with our business. When I did have those times that I sat down and thought about problems on their own, I definitely came up with some of the best and most innovative solutions that I've had for the business. Things that I just wouldn't have done if it was just caught up in the everyday busyness of doing my normal job. When I was coming up with our core business values recently, one of the core values that we hold is we make mistakes once. The reason that I think this is so important is because I do have that passion to innovate and to try new things and to experiment. It means we're going to make some mistakes. My belief is that if we correct these mistakes as we go, this leads to growth. And I think this is somewhere that we've had good success in over the journey if I look back. The final lesson that I've learned is the power of process. Now, if you knew me back in the day, this might come as a bit of a surprise. As I mentioned earlier, I was inconsistent. I was up and down. I'd have good months and then I'd have bad months, and I was all over the shop. Now, with the processes that we've built and the structure, I'm far more consistent. It'd be safe to say that I've turned into a process nerd. I map out absolutely everything from start to finish, and we've recorded and stored over 200 individual processes for every part of the business. This has led to us being really efficient and consistent in the way that we deliver things to you. It's been great for when new people join the team. I can share with them exactly how we like to have things done so they can do it similar to the way that others do from day one. It's really easy to add further tasks to their list as they start to get used to the ones that they already have and build out their roles slowly. I used to think that I had to do everything myself because no one could possibly do it as well as I could. It's fair to say I definitely had an overinflated opinion of how important I was. What I've come to learn is that not only could other people do it as well as I could, they're actually much better at doing these things than I ever was. Thanks heaps for checking out the video. It's really helped me to reflect back on what's been a pretty exciting 5 years of my life. There's certainly a huge amount in front of us, and I'm really pumped to see where the next 5 years might take us. If you wanted to find out a little bit more about the values that I mentioned during this video and the 4 that we have as a business to see if you relate to them, check out this video and I'll see you over there.